In this video, we're going to look at the zoom tool to get closer to or move further away from an image that we're working with. We'll look at the paint bucket tool as a means to fill in a specific color quickly, efficiently, and we'll review the step backward tool as a means to undo errors or a series of errors also quickly and easily. And as a side, we'll look at how to bring in images from the web to an exactly sized canvas. You'll see what I mean here in a second. So let's do that first. Let's look at how to bring in an image from the web, and Photoshop will know exactly what size canvas we want. So if we were to go out here to the web, and you can get this same image from underneath this tutorial, and I click on a picture, and here I have these 9 faces. I'll right click on them and go to copy, and then go into Photoshop. And once I'm in Photoshop, I'm going to go to File, New, and rather than set the parameters here, Photoshop already knows that I have something on my clipboard, and it knows the exact size of it. In this case, it's 400 by 400. That image that I just copied was a 400 by 400 pixel square, and it knows that. So I'll hit cancel so you can see this again. I'll go to File, New. It knows something's on the clipboard. You can see it recognizes it there. You really don't need to know any more than that. It recognizes that you copied the image. Just click OK, go to Edit, and Paste. And what you see on here is a grid. I use these grid lines for doing work from time to time, and I'll get rid of those just because we're not used to using them in our class just yet. So here I have that image, and now let's look at the 2 primary and the 1 secondary thing that I mentioned. The zoom tool, number 1, the paint bucket to add color quickly, and then the step backward tool as a review to undo errors. All right, so if you look down right above your color swatches here, almost the last tool on the vertical toolbar, main toolbar here, you'll see the zoom tool, and if I let my mouse hang out over top of it, you can see it says zoom tool. So let's click it, and you'll notice here I am with what looks like a magnifying glass, and I'm moving that around my image here, and you can see I have a plus sign. The plus sign means that if I click my mouse once, which I'll do, it will zoom in, and I can keep clicking and zooming in. Now if I want to get this guy in the middle, I can just move it over there. Now say I want to get closer to the face with the red tongue. I can zoom in very close to the point where it's hard to see exactly where I am on this canvas. And you'll notice the magnifying glass now doesn't have a plus in it at all, because we've reached the maximum that we can zoom in, and that happens to be 3200% on this particular image. So you can always see where you're at. Now, how do I zoom, or how do we zoom out? I'm going to hold down the Alt key, the ALT key, and you'll notice something. I'll hold it down a couple times and let it go. You'll notice a minus sign appears inside the magnifying glass. And that means by holding in the Alt key and now clicking my mouse, you can see I can zoom out. I can zoom out to the point where I'm at 100%. Here you can see 100%. I can even zoom out further, a view from the airplane, so to speak. And now I'm at 30% or 33.3%, and I can, go down much further. And if I let go of the Alt key, you'll notice I have the plus sign there again. I can start zooming back in. Okay. So the plus sign will zoom us in. Hold the Alt key down and click the mouse to zoom out. Now, sometimes you may get so far out and you want to quickly get back to, here I'm at 25%. You want to get back to the actual size of the image. Well, the actual size of the image is 100%. So we started with an image that was 100%, or the whole thing. Now I could keep clicking the plus sign on it, or I could take a shortcut over here and just double click on the zoom tool. That's what I'm going to do, and watch what happens. I'm going to come over here and just do a quick left click on my mouse, double click, and that brings me to 100% of the actual size of the image. The same is true if I were to zoom into so far, and I said, wow, I don't know exactly where I'm at. I wanted to edit one of these, and I'm not sure exactly where I'm at. You can see I'm at 3200, which is the max. If I want to get out quickly to the actual size, I can go over here to the zoom tool, double click on it, and that brings me back to 100% of the image. So a quick review: the zoom tool with the plus, it will zoom in. Hold the Alt key down, you can zoom out. If you want to get back to 100 or the actual size of the image quickly, you can just double click on it. Now, when would I use this? Well, let's say I want to add eyes to this face here that doesn't have eyes. So I'm going to zoom in on him. I'm going to go grab my pencil tool, and I'll make the brush tip size 1, and the color black, I have that on top. So I can just put some eyes in here. There's one, and here's a right eye. And if I don't like that right eye, remember, I can just go to Edit, Step Backward, and it'll remove it or undo it, and I can do it again. And maybe I want to make this one a little bit bigger. So here I'm using the zoom tool to zoom in and edit, very close to what is a relatively small image. Each one of these faces is pretty small. So I'm zoomed in right now. And if I want to zoom out to see what this looks like, I click on my zoom tool, and I can hold the Alt key and zoom out, or I can go over here and double click and bring it all the way back out. And if you look, here are those two eyes that I just put in. All right, so I'm going to zoom in on this one in the center and put a mouth on him. Now I'm going to use my pencil tool again. I'm going to change the size of the brush tip to 3. Maybe make that 2, and I'm just going to draw a mouth in here. And I'll actually use it and fill it in here. Now, if I were to go outside that line, depending on where I last left go my mouse, it may erase the whole thing. So what you may want to do is you may want to draw your face and then let go of your mouse and then fill it in, because now if I go outside of what I was trying to fill in, because I've let go of the mouse already, I can go Edit, Step Back, and it'll just take me back 1 step. So now I'll fill this in. Again, this is my pencil tool, and I'm zoomed in. You can see up at the top I'm zoomed in 600%, and looks good. And maybe I'll put a little something here. Maybe make that a little bit heavier on that side. And I'll click on my zoom tool, hold the Alt key down, and I can zoom out. Okay. So we've looked at the zoom tool to zoom in, to zoom out. In order to edit things that are small, a double click on the zoom tool right there brings us to 100%. All right. Next, let's look at the paint bucket as a means to fill in a color quickly. Now, the paint bucket is located underneath the eraser tools in most versions of Photoshop. And if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it's the 12th tool down here. And now you might not see it. If I right click on it, you can see there's 2 tools underneath the paint bucket. There's the gradient tool, which we'll look at later, and the paint bucket tool. Now let me just click on the gradient tool, because a lot of times you'll look for that paint bucket and you just don't see it. Don't see it. It's because the paint bucket and the gradient tool, the paint bucket tool and the gradient tool, are together. Remember that these tools, if they have a little triangle in the corner, it means there are multiple tools there, and you can right click on, for instance, here the pencil, and see that along with the pencil we have a couple different brushes. We right click on the eraser, see there's a couple different erasers, and the same is true for here. So if you don't see your paint bucket, look right underneath your eraser, right click, you'll see the gradient tool is active, and I'm going to choose my paint bucket. Okay, now the paint bucket works by choosing. It allows us to choose a color, and if you can see where I'm at here, I have the paint bucket. I've got it sitting right in almost in the center of this image. You can see it looks like a bucket tilted to the side with some paint coming out, or liquid, which we'll assume is paint coming out of the right side of the bucket. Wherever I take this tip of this paint bucket and click, it's going to fill in the color. So let me do a couple things. Let me zoom in on this face in the bottom right, and we can see his tongue there. Let me go get a shade of red, and I'll choose, it almost looks like pink, a medium shade of red. I'll go over and click on my paint bucket, and here you can see my paint bucket is out here, tilted to the side and ready to go. My color selected is red. Now all I have to do is move into an empty area and click one time, and I can fill up that area. I can edit or undo it by going edit, step backward, and get rid of it. If I didn't like that shade of red, I wanted to maybe make it more of a pink, I could go in here. I guess that's more of a purple. Here's kind of a pink. I could go in here and now click my paint bucket again and fill it. And if I don't like that, I can either undo it or just go and pick a red. Now you can see that sometimes the image will get distorted if we just start filling color over color. So I'm going to step backward 4 times, 2, 3, 4, get it to white again. I might even need to step back a 3rd time, or 5th time rather. Get my paint bucket and I'll fill it with red. Next, just to exercise this paint bucket again, let's say I wanted to fill up his teeth with a light color, maybe a light color blue. So I'll choose a very light color blue, go and make the paint bucket active, and I can fill it in. I can zoom out by clicking on the zoom tool, holding the Alt key, and that allows me to zoom out. You can see I've got his blue teeth and his red tongue. I'll use the paint bucket one more time. I'll go over to my zoom tool. I'll zoom in on this guy in the corner with the open mouth. Maybe I want some shade of orange, so I'll go down here, choose a shade of orange, make sure my paint bucket is active, and I can fill in his mouth with orange. I can click on my zoom tool and step out of it, see how it looks. Remember, I can double click on it to get back to 100%, and I might say, well, I don't like that orange mouth. I don't have to be zoomed back in. I can go to edit, step backward, and take a look at his orange mouth. I'll go edit, step backward, and you'll see that his mouth is white again. So we looked at how to bring in an image and have Photoshop recognize the size of the canvas if we have something copied to the clipboard. We spent a lot of time here looking at the zoom tool, how to zoom in, how to zoom out, how to double click on zoom to get back to 100%, how to zoom in to edit small images, and then use the paint bucket to change the color quickly by clicking on the color we want, like we had done in the past with the paintbrush or the pencil, and then going to the paint bucket and clicking the area we wanted to fill the color. Lastly, we also reviewed the edit step backward tool, which allows us to undo actions, and we can undo a number of actions if we want. So by clicking edit step backward when we make an error, we can fix it quickly, easily by undoing, going to edit step backward.